Hey, I'm Leo, and welcome back to Learn with Leo. Today, we're tackling a topic that's quietly draining an entire generation. If you've ever felt tired even after a full 8 hours of sleep, this one's for you. We call it burnout, and psychologists say it's not just tiredness. Christina Maslach, the Stanford psychologist who defined the term, calls it a state of chronic exhaustion. It's hitting Gen Z and millennials harder than any generation before them. In the UK, a Deloitte survey found that nearly half of young professionals feel burned out most of the time. In the US, the American Psychological Association has called burnout a national epidemic. And here's the scary part. Most people don't even realize it's happening to them. It creeps in quietly. One late night to finish a project, then another, then another. You start canceling plans with friends because, quote, you're just too tired. You tell yourself it's just a busy season, but the busy season never ends. Slowly, pressure, anxiety, and exhaustion become your everyday normal. Yet you keep saying the same 5 words, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. Think of your energy like a candle. A candle that burns too hot melts fast. It blazes bright for a moment, then collapses into a pool of wax. But a steady, smaller flame, that candle can light an entire room for hours. That's the difference between burning bright and burning out. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which candle you've been living like. And more importantly, you'll walk away with a real plan to protect yourself. Burnout isn't a badge of honor. It's your body waving a red flag. Author Emily Nagoski once wrote, "You are not a machine. You are a human being." And human beings weren't designed to run at full speed until they crash. So before we get into the why and the how, let's start with something simple. Take a breath. Notice how your shoulders feel right now, because the first step to escaping burnout is admitting you've been ignoring the signs. And by the end of this video, you'll know how to finally put that candle on a slower burn. So let's get started, because your energy is worth protecting. But what exactly is burnout? Because it's far more serious than just feeling tired after a long week. Think of your brain like a smartphone running on a full day of notifications, calls, and apps all at once. At first, it handles everything just fine. But keep pushing without a single recharge, and things start to break down. The battery drains fast, the device overheats, apps start crashing, and eventually, the whole thing just shuts off. That's exactly what chronic burnout does to you. The same crash, but inside your mind and body. In fact, the World Health Organization officially classifies burnout as an occupational phenomenon in the ICD-11. It's defined by 3 core signs: feeling drained, mental distance from your work, and a sharp drop in performance. Herbert Freudenberger, the psychologist who actually coined the term in the 1970s, compared it to a building that has burned out. On the outside, it might still be standing, but inside, the structure has completely collapsed. So when you feel that, the joy you once had for your job, your studies, even your hobbies, just fades. That spark of motivation, that thing that used to make you jump out of bed, simply disappears. You're not lazy. You're not broken. You're experiencing a recognized state of complete depletion. And the numbers around it are genuinely alarming. A Gallup study found that 76% of employees say they sometimes feel burned out. Deloitte's global survey reported that 77% of professionals have experienced burnout at their current job. Among millennials and Gen Z, the rates climb even higher, reaching up to 84% in some studies. These are people in their 20s and 30s. The years that are supposed to be their peak. A McKinsey report found that nearly 1 in 3 workers say they have left a job purely because of burnout. And in the UK, a Mental Health Foundation survey reported that 74% of adults have felt so stressed they've been overwhelmed or unable to cope. Even the American Psychological Association has warned that chronic workplace stress costs employers billions every single year. So burnout is not in your head. It is a measurable, global phenomenon that affects millions of people just like you. The exhaustion, the cynicism, the feeling that you've got nothing left to give, that is the textbook definition. It doesn't just show up at work either. It creeps into your studies, your relationships, your creative life, and your sense of self. Burnout whispers before it shouts. It starts as a quiet drag in the morning, then becomes a constant heaviness you can't shake. You start dreading things you used to love, snapping at people who care about you, and wondering why you feel so hollow. That hollow feeling, psychologists call it depersonalization, where you stop feeling connected to your own life. And it doesn't just disappear with a good night's sleep. Real burnout can take months, even years, to recover from. The scariest part: many people don't even realize they're in it. They just call it being busy and keep going. But once you recognize the signs, you can finally start doing something about it. And that's exactly where we're heading next. So why is this happening to so many of us right now? The truth is, burnout rarely has just one cause. It's usually the combined weight of pressure, comparison, and expectations stacking up silently over time. Let's start with what's often called the boiling frog effect. You know the famous metaphor. A frog placed in slowly heating water doesn't jump out. It just stays put until it's too late. We do the exact same thing. 1 more hour, 1 more project, 1 more late night. No big deal, we tell ourselves. Until one day you wake up completely drained, running on the 1% battery with no charger in sight. Now let's talk about the fear of falling behind. Especially in this AI-driven era we're all living through. Automation is reshaping jobs faster than ever, and that anxiety pushes young workers to grind harder, not smarter. Instead of real rest, people lean on 3 espressos a day and energy drinks just to stay in the game. But here's what Cal Newport calls a pseudo-productivity in his book Deep Work. Looking busy isn't the same as being effective. Then there's economic pressure. For a lot of people, quitting isn't even a real option. Rent is up, groceries cost more, and if you've got family depending on you, the weight gets even heavier. Many stay in draining jobs purely to pay the bills, feeling trapped in a video game they can't pause. And even when the basics are covered, our own expectations can become the heaviest trap of all. We stack school side hustles, side projects, and social commitments, then wonder why we're drowning. Psychologist Adam Grant calls this toxic hustle culture, where business gets mistaken for worth. The pressure we create ourselves often becomes the very thing that breaks us down the most. And finally, let's talk about the comparison trap. Open Instagram or TikTok for 5 minutes and watch what happens. Suddenly, someone your age is launching a startup, traveling the world, and waking up at 5 a.m. to meditate. Meanwhile, you're just trying to get through Tuesday with a decent cup of coffee. You feel like you're doing something wrong for wanting 8 hours of sleep. But here's the reality. What you're seeing on social media is the highlight reel, not the full picture. Compare your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel, and you'll always feel like you're losing. Here's a powerful reframe from author Brené Brown: comparison is the thief of joy. And that absolutely applies here. So when you boil it all down, burnout is rarely about working too hard on one thing. It's the slow, quiet mix of all these forces wearing you down at the same time. Each one alone might feel manageable. Together, they form the perfect storm. But once you can name the storm, you can start learning how to weather it. And that's coming up next. Now that we can name the storm, let's talk about what it actually costs you when you ignore it. First, the price hits your body. Chronic stress keeps you locked in fight or flight mode, flooding your system with cortisol. A landmark review in the International Journal of Behavioral Medicine linked burnout directly to allostatic load, the wear and tear on your body from constant stress. That wear and tear shows up as insomnia, brutal headaches, and over time, raises your risk for heart disease and stomach problems. It's not just in your head either, though the mind takes a heavy hit too. Burnout drains the color out of life. Things you used to love start to feel pointless, and a quiet emptiness settles in. That emptiness often opens the door to anxiety and depression. Even world-famous creatives like Adele and Selena Gomez have spoken publicly about losing the joy in their work because of burnout. Christina Maslach, the psychologist who literally defined burnout, identified this as emotional exhaustion, the first pillar of her burnout model. Now flip that into your career. The same chronic stress that wrecks your sleep also wrecks your focus. Your decision-making gets foggy, your creativity dries up, and your output tanks. People who burn out consistently report measurable drops in performance. It hits at every level. Naomi Osaka withdrew from the French Open. Simone Biles stepped back from the Olympics. Even the elite hit a wall. Psychologist Herbert Freudenberger, who first coined the term burnout back in the 1970s, said it best: it's the failure of a person to be effective, because their energy has been depleted. And the damage doesn't stop at your desk. It bleeds straight into the relationships you care about most. Burnout makes you irritable with the people closest to you. You cancel plans, pull away, and stop showing up emotionally. That withdrawal cycle turns a once vibrant, engaged person into someone just running on autopilot. Studies in BMC Public Health confirm that burnout actively reduces prosocial behavior, meaning you literally become less present for others. So let's pull it all together. Burnout damages your body, your mind, your career, and your relationships all at the same time. It's not a single wound. It's a forefront war being fought inside you every single day. And the cruelest part, it does all of this in near silence. No alarms go off, no breaking news alert gets sent. Psychologists call it the silent killer of modern life. It gnaws away at your health, your mind, and your connections one quiet day at a time. You don't feel it collapsing all at once. You just wake up one morning and realize you haven't felt like yourself in months. That's why understanding the cost is the turning point. You have to see it clearly before you can fight it. But here's the part most people miss. The cost of burnout isn't just personal. When millions of people burn out at once, it ripples through workplaces, schools, and entire economies. Dr. Burnout alone costs the U.S. healthcare system around $4.6 billion every single year. And the World Health Organization officially classified burnout as an occupational phenomenon in 2019. So it's not just in your head. It's not weakness. And it's definitely not something to push through. It's a real, measurable cost to you and to everyone around you. Which is exactly why the next chapter, the escape plan, matters so much. So if burnout really is this serious, just how big is the problem? Let's pull back and look at the global picture. The numbers are genuinely alarming. A landmark Deloitte survey of more than 1,000 workers found that a whopping 77% of them had experienced burnout at their current job. Even more concerning, around 65% say it directly impacted them. Stress-related sick leave is now snowballing into a full-blown economic crisis across the US and UK. This isn't a niche problem anymore. As the World Health Organization officially recognized in 2019, burnout is a legitimate occupational phenomenon, a real diagnosis listed in the International Classification of Diseases. And the workforce is split right down the middle. Roughly half of employees feel actively engaged at work, while nearly 50%, yes, 1 in 2, are simply checked out and emotionally exhausted. So if you're feeling drained, you're not even close to alone. You are statistically the rule, not the exception, and students are getting hit just as hard. The HSE in the UK found that over a third of students report symptoms consistent with clinical burnout before even stepping into a job. Nearly 40% of Gen Z students say they've seriously considered pausing their studies just to catch their breath. The pressure has become unbearable. You don't have to look far to see it in pop culture either. Just look at how the conversation has exploded online. The hashtag burnout has racked up over 3.7 billion views on TikTok, a digital cry for help echoing across the globe. Back in 2021, the New York Times declared burnout as their runner-up word of the year. Then, the very next year, it was quiet quitting taking over feeds everywhere. And high-profile names aren't immune either. Pop star Selena Gomez openly stepped back from the spotlight in 2023 to focus on protecting her mental health from chronic burnout. Olympic legend Simone Biles did the same thing at the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, withdrawing to protect her own well-being, sending shockwaves through the sports world. In response to all this, a cultural shift has been quietly brewing. Enter the soft life movement, an aesthetic prioritizing inner peace and gentle living. And workplace trends like Bare Minimum Monday have popped up to set hard boundaries between work and rest. This is a collective rejection of always-on hustle culture and a demand to redefine success. Even algorithms are catching on. TikTok itself rolled out hourly screen time reminders after pressure to address the toll digital overload was taking on users. Because when the very platforms built to capture your attention start telling you to log off, that's a massive signal. But beyond all the trending hashtags and viral discourse, the loudest signal isn't found on a screen at all. It's the quiet, exhausted sigh of the colleague sitting right next to you, pretending to be just fine. It's the heavy weight behind your own fake "I'm good" text reply at 2 a.m. It's the silent, unspoken understanding between two burnt-out colleagues across a Zoom call. Because here's the hard truth, this crisis isn't going to fix itself overnight. But knowing the massive scale of the problem is the crucial first step to finally tackling it head-on. So enough with the doom and gloom. Now that we truly see the problem, it's time to do something about it. Let's dive into the specific escape tools that can actually pull you out of this mess, starting with your personal strategy. Coming up next, the proven practical techniques you can plug into your life right now to actually start feeling like yourself again. Because the escape plan starts with one simple, game-changing shift in how you work. Now let's get into the practical toolkit. The habits you can plug into your day starting today to pull yourself out of the drain. First up, the Pomodoro technique, a method invented in the late 1980s by Francesco Cirillo, and still used by everyone from software engineers in Silicon Valley to students cramming for finals. Here's how it works: set a timer for 25 minutes, work with full focus, then take a 5-minute break to stretch, grab water, or just breathe. After 4 rounds, take a longer break of 15 to 30 minutes. You're essentially recharging your brain in small stages instead of running it until it overheats. Think of it like interval training for your mind. The same way athletes alternate between sprinting and resting to get stronger without injury. Next, prioritize ruthlessly. Not every task deserves the same energy, and this is where most people burn themselves out doing busy work. Sort everything on your plate into 3 groups: urgent tasks that must happen now, important ones that can wait until today, and low-value stuff that can be postponed or dropped entirely. This is the Pareto principle in action, sometimes called the 80-20 rule. Roughly 20% of your effort drives 80% of your actual results. Italian economist Vilfredo Pareto noticed this pattern over a century ago, and it shows up everywhere from business to studying. Focus on the vital few, ignore the trivial many. Now here's a habit most people underestimate: write your tasks down on paper, or in an app like Notion or even Apple Notes. Your brain isn't built to be a storage drive. When you offload tasks onto a list, you free up working memory and instantly feel lighter and more focused. Psychologist Bluma Zagarnik showed we remember unfinished tasks way more than completed ones, which is exactly why an unwritten to-do list keeps spinning in your head at 2 a.m. Writing them down signals your brain, "We've got this," and that loop finally quiets down so you can actually sleep. Tool number 3, keep an emotion journal. Just 10 to 15 minutes a day in a quiet corner with a pen and paper. Dump out whatever is in your head: an argument with your roommate, exam nerves, a frustration at work, even a random idea. No grammar rules, no structure, just raw honesty. James Pennebaker, a leading psychology researcher at the University of Texas, found that expressive writing for just 15 minutes a day measurably reduces stress and improves mental health. Over time, you'll start spotting emotional patterns. Maybe your anxiety spikes every Sunday night before the work week, or every time you check Instagram. Maybe your positive energy peaks when you're walking in the park or chatting with your best mate. Once you see the patterns, you can design your life around what actually lifts you. Journaling also helps you release the trap of perfectionism. Brené Brown, the best-selling author of The Gifts of Imperfection, calls this radical self-acceptance. Perfectionism is a major engine of burnout. It tells you that anything less than flawless is failure, which is simply not true. Done is better than perfect. A completed B- project always beats a perfect one stuck in your drafts forever. Another small but powerful shift: protect your downtime like it's a business meeting. Block it in your calendar. Tell people you aren't available. In the UK, even the National Health Service recommends scheduling proper rest, not as a luxury, but as a clinical requirement for recovery. Combine this with movement. Just a 20-minute walk outside can drop your cortisol levels and reset your mood. You don't need a fancy gym or a Peloton, and don't underestimate sleep. Arianna Huffington, founder of the Huffington Post, actually collapsed from burnout and built an entire movement around the power of sleep after recovery. Her book, The Sleep Revolution, makes the case that sleep isn't weakness, it's the most powerful performance tool we have. Finally, learn to say no without guilt. Every yes to something unimportant is a no to your own energy, focus, and health. Burnout often grows in the gap between what you've committed to and what you actually have capacity for. Closing that gap is the real escape plan. But here's the truth nobody likes to say out loud: beating burnout was never meant to be a solo sport. The World Health Organization officially classified burnout as an occupational phenomenon back in 2019. And even they framed it as a workplace issue, not a personal weakness. That's huge, because for years people were told to just meditate harder or buy a better planner. No, the system around you has to change too. It starts at home. Families are the first line of emotional defense, especially in cultures where grades are treated like a report card on parenting. Instead of comparing kids to the neighbor's kid or that cousin on scholarship, ask them how they're actually feeling. A walk in the park beats another tutoring lecture every time. Schools need to stop acting like grade factories and start acting like, well, schools. Think Finland, where standardized testing is light and recess is sacred. Varied assessments, real emotional health support, and valuing soft skills like teamwork and empathy. That's the model that actually produces healthier students. Now let's talk workplaces. Too many companies still run on what I call an extract and exhaust mindset. Squeeze everything out of the employee, then wonder why turnover is exploding. Companies like Buffer and Basecamp made 4-day work weeks, and no Slack Fridays famous. And the results spoke for themselves. Happier people, better output. Even countries are getting in on it. Sweden piloted 6-hour workdays in some public sectors and saw big drops in sick leave and burnout complaints. Reasonable workloads, fair pay, real time off, these aren't perks anymore. They're the baseline of a healthy workplace. And as Adam Grant has shown, rest is actually a strategic advantage, not a weakness. Finally, society and media have to stop glorifying the 4 a.m. grind set. Just look at how the quiet quitting movement exploded on TikTok. Millions of people saying, I will do my job and nothing more. That shift matters. When culture starts rewarding balance and well-being over performative burnout, real change becomes possible. And it's not just vibes, support networks matter. Hotlines, community groups, campus counseling centers, the kind the UK's NHS and Mind charity actively promote for free access. If you live in the US, dialing 9088 connects you to the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Same idea, free, confidential, available 24/7. These resources exist because the system is slowly admitting what psychologists have been saying for decades: people need people. Here's a key insight from authors like Johann Hari in Lost Connections: depression and burnout often aren't individual failures. They're signals that something around you is broken. Fix the environment and a lot of the pain starts to lift. School culture, workplace norms, family expectations. They all need tuning, not just your sleep tracker. And let's be honest, this shift is already underway. The soft life trend, the lazy girl job movement, the loud refusal to glorify overwork. It's a generation pushing back. They're not being lazy. They're refusing to inherit a system that treated their parents' health as a cost of doing business. On the family side, British culture, for example, has started openly talking about mental health. Campaigns like the Royal Family's Heads Together pushed the conversation into living rooms. Meanwhile, in the US, workplace wellness law like California's right to disconnect bill is starting to give workers legal permission to log off. That's how policy turns into protection. It's slow, yes, but it's real. Every small reform, a no meeting Wednesday, a free counseling session, a parent who listens, chips away at the culture that fed your burnout. And here's something powerful: when you stop blaming yourself and start asking, what around me needs to change? You stop being the problem and become part of the solution. Think of it this way: a fish doesn't blame itself for being slow. It asks if the water it's swimming in is the problem. You deserve a healthier tank, too. Schools can shift, workplaces can shift, and slowly, painfully, society can shift. But none of that works unless individuals like you demand it. So use your voice at work, advocate at school, talk honestly with your family, and vote with your attention and your dollars. And coming up, in our final section, we'll bring it all home. The simple choice that decides whether your candle burns bright or burns out for good. So let's bring it all home with one final thought. Burnout doesn't play favorites, and it certainly doesn't care about your goals. It hits students cramming for finals, lawyers burning the midnight oil, parents holding down 2 jobs, and creators chasing viral dreams. If you've ever felt like you're running on fumes while everyone else seems fine, you are not broken. You are human. Think about it this way. Toyota's production line became legendary not because workers ran faster, but because they learned to pause. The Toyota production system built an empire on one principle: stop the line if something is wrong. We should treat ourselves the same way. Author Brené Brown once said, "You can't pour from an empty cup. Take care of yourself first." That line has stuck with millions for a reason. Because here's the truth psychologists keep confirming. Chronic stress isn't a badge of honor. It's a slow leak in your tire. You might still roll for a while, but eventually you stop. And by then, the damage is far more expensive than a simple pit stop would have been. So the real skill isn't pushing harder. It's knowing when to coast, when to refuel, and when to simply stop the car. Now let's talk about that candle we mentioned earlier, because it's the perfect picture of your future if you don't change anything today. A candle that blazes too hot at the start looks impressive, but it burns out before it has a chance to light the room. On the other hand, a steady flame, smaller, calmer, but consistent, can burn for hours and light everything around it. That second candle is you, the version of you that chooses rest, chooses balance, and chooses to last. Research on marathon runners showed something wild. Those who paced themselves finished faster than the ones who sprinted at the start. Slow and steady isn't just a fairy tale, it's the strategy elite performers, Navy SEALs, and top surgeons swear by. So here's my challenge to you this week. Pick one evening to do absolutely nothing productive. No emails, no studying, no side hustles. Just rest, breathe, and let your nervous system finally stand down. If that feels scary, that itself is the signal. The panic you feel at the idea of stopping is exactly the burnout talking. Here's something simple, but powerful. Schedule your rest like it's a meeting with your most important client. Because that client is you. Think of the British phrase, keep calm and carry on. It's been a cultural motto for a reason. Resilience isn't about pushing harder. It's about pacing yourself through the storm so you arrive on the other side still standing. And remember, you don't have to earn rest. Rest isn't a reward, it's fuel. Without it, nothing else works. The famous psychologist William James once said, "The greatest weapon against stress is our ability to choose one thought over another. Choosing rest over hustle, presence over panic, health over grind. That choice is yours to make starting today." So here's the question I want to leave you with. Will your candle blaze hot and die young, or burn steady and light up your entire life? Drop your answer in the comments below. I genuinely read them, and your story might just help someone else feel less alone. If this video helped you see burnout differently, please like, subscribe, and share it with a friend who needs to hear this today. Until next time, this is Leo. Keep your flame steady, your boundaries firm, and never forget that you are worth more than your productivity. Take care of yourself out there. You deserve it more than you know.